All right. Kate Schaffer, thank you for being Paw Pack's guest today. We have asked you for your help in encouraging progressive women to run for office because, as you know, unfortunately, women need to be encouraged more than men.
Yes.
So you are an Arkansas native with extensive professional and volunteer experience in public relations, community organizing, and nonprofit work. You are also a wife and mother, right? You wear lots of hats.
And daughter.
And daughter, right. Well, you wear lots of hats like lots of women do, right?
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, you ran for a seat in the Arkansas House of Representatives in District 10, and which covers Bentonville and Bella Vista, right?
Correct.
And you ran a great campaign, but you lost pretty narrowly. And now you're planning to run again. Isn't that right?
I am. Yes.
Can you tell our viewers why you ran 2 years ago, why you are running again, and why you would encourage other women to run? And finally, do you think the fact that you lost should discourage other women from running?
Okay. Well, there's a lot packed into those questions. So
yes.
I have lots to say.
Good.
So I actually ran, I know it feels like 2 years ago, but it wasn't even a year ago. And I'm going to have to file to run in 2024 in November. So this is my break summer, for whatever that's worth. When we moved to Northwest Arkansas in 2017, frankly, I signed up to volunteer for political campaigns in the Democratic Party because I didn't know anybody. And I wasn't working, and I needed to make friends, and I needed to make friends that I felt like shared my values, but also I was interested, like, what's it like up here? What's the political scene like? And so I think people have this kind of view that Northwest Arkansas, specifically my district, which is downtown Bentonville, it includes Crystal Bridges, it includes the Momentary. It's very high voter turnout. It's high income compared to a lot of other districts in Arkansas. I think people thought, in fact, several of my Hot Springs friends said to me, "You're gonna love it up there. It's bluer, and you're gonna feel right at home." And when I moved here, I was so shocked to find out that was actually not just not true, but it was quite the opposite. And so then I got involved with volunteering for Gayatri Agnew when she ran in 2018, and that led me to get involved with some other campaigns. And then I sort of felt like I had found my people. But it also kind of gave me an inside view as to how really difficult it is to run for office. And that even in at that time it was District 93, even in District 10, I think we had some progressives who ran that were shocked at their loss numbers because people don't look at the data enough to realize what they're up against. And I looked at these people who were representing us in Little Rock, with all due respect, and I thought, they're not representing our purported values. And I used to say during my stump speeches, look at the side of the Momentary. It says, "You belong here." And, you walk downtown during Pride and you see Pride flags hanging everywhere. And we have these amazing exhibits at the museum that talk about inclusivity, but that's not what our leaders are taking to Little Rock. And we've got to change that, So that was really a catalyst for me. But I felt big imposter syndrome. I hadn't worked in a long time. And I thought, what do I bring to the table? What's my experience? But I thought, you know what? I've got a strong work ethic. I'm smart, pretty smart. I've got Arkansas roots, and it's time to bring my values to the race, and I have the time. And I think it's really important for me to acknowledge that one of the reasons it's so hard to get women to run is we handle everything, right? I mean, all these studies came out during COVID about how women were not only working from remotely or working maybe even not remotely, they had to go to the front lines and still handling, what are we going to do with the kids? They can't go to school. They were still handling everything. And a lot of studies showed that. So I think that that's a big barrier for women. How am I possibly going to make this work with all I have to handle? So I gave it a try. and we did well. We got my campaign, we got almost about 44% of the vote. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm going to run again. I think it's really important for recognition for people to say, oh yeah, she ran last time. And I think one thing that shocked me was how many people go into the voting booth the day of and vote because they know your name, and that's not how I operate, but I do think people do that.
But what precipitated you to run the first time in the face of all these challenges which you have correctly identified?
So the main thing for me was how shocked I was that we were not being represented for what we should be in my district. And I would say, this person, I don't want to name any names, but whatever, people know who our representatives are. I never see that person at Crystal Bridges. I never see that person at the downtown farmers market. I never see that person at Bentonville public school board meetings or JP meetings. And it's like, what are they? Do they know? Are they meeting with the town leaders? Do they know what the needs are here? Do they know what we're facing with infrastructure, with workforce development? But I felt like all I was seeing was our representatives going down and introducing these culture war bills. Here's a good example. The man who used to hold this seat, the thing he was known for in the State House in the 2018 cycle was introducing a bill that said that made every public school put "In God We Trust" framed in every classroom. And admittedly, it was paid for by some private fund, but it's like, we have a lot of problems in Arkansas. And this was before we even have even more public school issues like we do now. But to me, that was just an example of like, that's not really something that's important to the district. So
do you think women should run? Women should be in office in Arkansas?
Absolutely. I read something today I love this quote, and I don't know who said it, but it says, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And, if you think about it, not just statewide, but in Congress, we're being represented in Arkansas by, with all due respect, 6 white guys.
Right.
And we have a diverse state. And, I don't feel like they know what a lot of people are going through. I was reading, I'm sure you read it, Melinda Gate, that went out in Time, or essay, I guess, because she's really going to be investing in getting women to run at the state level. And she said there are more men with the name Mike in Congress than women who chair committees. So when I read those things, I was like, oh my goodness. And Bettina, you and I know, we remember 1992, the year of the woman, when women got mad as heck because they watched Anita Hill get eviscerated on national television. And then an amazing number of women ran. And what are we, 30 plus years from that? And it's like, we haven't progressed.
Right.
In fact, in some ways, I feel like we've gone backward. And so there's so many things that we could do to elevate women. Gayatri worked on getting campaign funds, allowing campaign funds to be used for childcare.
Right. I think she was successful at that.
Yeah. How about Family and Medical Leave Act? What about being able to do things virtually? Now they made it so that none of these committee meetings can be done virtually in our state house. That might be because they want to pick up their per diem. But think about, how much better, especially for us up here, women up here, and we're a long way from Little Rock, South Arkansas too, or even Northeast Arkansas, if you didn't have to be there for every single committee meeting. There's a lot that can be done to encourage women to run. One of the things I said to my husband is we had a lot of late night talks, like what happens if you win, and I said, I'm going to have to use some of my salary to pay for, because my mother is in an assisted living and Greg and I are financially responsible and I take care of her. I'm an only child now. My sister passed. And I thought, I'm going to have to use some of that salary to pay for extra help because, I'm over there 3 or 4 times a week. I do her laundry. I take her to all of her doctor's appointments and I'm happy to do that. But I mean, that's a whole different caregiving.
But with all these challenges, you don't want to discourage women from running.
No.
You just want them to be realistic. Is that?
I want them to be realistic. It takes a lot of time. It does. And, you know, if you're really working a campaign the way it should be worked, you have to expect that your weekends are going to be tied up from, you know, April or May until the election, with being out at local events, door knocking, phone banking, and the such. But if we don't keep running women, we're never going to have. We're just going to be on that menu perpetually. We're not going to. We're not going to have a choice.
Now, I understand from some women who have run, some who have lost, and that they actually viewed the experience as a positive one in the end. Is that true for you?
Absolutely. I mean, it reminded me I can do things that I hadn't done in a long time, like speak publicly, do media interviews, knock on a door. There's nothing more frightening than knocking on your first door. But honestly, people said, "Oh, didn't you have trolls? You know, didn't people say horrible things about you?" I really had a very good experience, even with people who didn't, you know, agree with me at the door or on the phone. It was a very rare case that I was treated poorly. So I enjoyed it, and I love people. So for me, it was rewarding to get out there and, you know, figure out what people's obstacles are.
Is there something about being a woman candidate that you would say was different or special, or women need to think about as a woman?
You know what's interesting in my race, Bettina, is I ran against another woman. And in many ways, we were very similar, brought up with faith backgrounds and had degrees and careers, but then stayed at home for a while. And we're the same age, but with extremely different ideas about how to solve problems. And so we were both very respectful with each other, because I respected that she was running, and I think she respected that I was running. But what I'll say is, and this is it, like, women aren't a monolith, you know, and so when I look at some of the stuff that she passed and voted for, it concerns me, because it's not, in my opinion, doesn't elevate women how they need to be. And I think in Arkansas, with what we see with our public schools and a lack of childcare, think of what experience women could bring to passing some of these laws, because they know firsthand, like, I need a childcare center this year and I can't find one because there aren't any spots open. So, and that's just one thing. I mean, we didn't do a lot to improve our maternal and child health. There were a few laws passed, but there were many that weren't, that didn't even make it out of committee. And that's going to be on my campaign platform this time. It's really abysmal and it's embarrassing. We shouldn't still be, you know, have these kind of health outcomes that we had 100 years ago.
Now, are you going to be running against her again? Is she the incumbent? Okay.
Yeah, she was. Last time we were both new, because this was an open seat in that Jim Dotson, who was the rep, ran for state senate. Yeah. But again, I think it's really important that we keep running good candidates, keep recruiting good candidates at all levels. Like, we need to be running people for school board, justice of the peace, city councils. You know, one of the things Melinda Gates said in her letter was, people don't realize, because people just don't have time to think about the news, how much your state house and your county quorum court and your city council and everything they do affects your everyday life.
I couldn't agree more. And I wish more people would realize that really affects them, goes on at the local and level. And
very much so.
I mean, so much.
No, I mean, I respect what our Congress people do and our senators for sure. And they bring, you know, federal dollars into the state that are necessary, or sometimes they vote against federal dollars coming into the state, but that's a whole nother topic. But when you look at look at what's going on with the LEARNS Act. I mean, it's huge. And our state has so much control over those, our libraries, you know, our reproductive rights. It's like, that's all being done at the state level, and it's becoming more and more so.
Right. Well, I think the other thing I want to bring up is, I think you women candidates support each other, didn't you? And some other women. And so women running have these natural allies with other women running too, to advise and support and listen to, you know, complaints or problems. I mean, don't you form some kind of network with other women who are running?
Yes, and we miss each other. We text
Yeah.
each other every once in a while. I'm
That's
of
good.
course texting a lot of them to try to get them to run again.
Good,
um,
good.
but
Well,
the
that's
woman, yeah, yeah. Well, I hope some of them will. The woman who ran for JP in my area, Carol Bella, we became pretty friendly, and we door knocked a lot. And then another JP candidate who was also like in part of my district, and we texted each other all the time and tried to encourage each other, and got mad
good.
when we lost, and
Right.
you know.
So if women run, they'll have you, the progressive women run, you women out there, you'll have you'll have natural allies.
Absolutely. And I
and
must
Kate
say the women who hold office currently, Rep Garner, Rep Clowney,
Yeah.
I mean, they were all, Denise Innit, like I could go on Ashley Hudson. They were so helpful. Anytime I texted them or asked them to come to a fundraiser, you know, they were always there for us.
That's great. Well, we're going to work, PAWPAC's going to work for you, of course, and give you money. And
thank you.
Think not just because you're a progressive woman, but because we think you'd be terrific in the state. Absolutely terrific.
Thank you.
We really people like you, really do.
I appreciate it. We have a lot to work on in Arkansas, and you know, we can't abandon our state. We have to keep fighting for what, I mean, I moved here, you've been here a long time, but I moved here 20 years ago and it was a very different place.
Yes, I moved here more than 30, but it was a different place, but we both chosen to stay.
Yeah.
I often say they're not going to run me out.
Nope, they're not running me out. I've got my nice boxing gloves on.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. It's been a great interview, and I know we'll be talking soon.
Sounds great. Thank you to PAWPAC. We couldn't do it without you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.